From 1950 to 2000, over 100,000 New Zealand children were removed from their families and placed into institutional care.
Stanley, take one.
Even though many children who arrived into the homes did not have an offending background, when they arrived into the homes, they were treated essentially as criminals. And for many of those who progressed into state care, and particularly those who progressed into institutional care, there were significant levels of abuse and violence against the children. It has enormous impacts on people. Children emerge with no sense of real connection to our communities, to our societies, and they harden up. From the 105 people that I followed in the book, 96 of them had ended up in custody, into prison or borstal by the age of 21. If you are removed into care and you have those experiences, if your mother was removed into care, if your father was removed into care, if your parents have been in prison, people can become locked in to the system. And so they're self-sustaining, but they're also intergenerational. You know, when we look at our prisons, that is where, when we track back, that is where we get to. So I kind of actually think we need to start turning things on their head and to be much more honest about the risks and much more honest about how people end up in prisons. And we actually do very little to change that reality for people. And the emphasis of government, of course, is around problematic individuals, where actually really we need to be attending to what the state is doing. You know, in many ways we should be subverting how we think about risk and to be thinking in a much more collective and encompassing way, so that we think of, well, what are the risks of how we structure our economies? What are the risks of how we do welfare? What are the risks of how we do health? What are the risks of the racism and discrimination that is embedded at every single line of our criminal justice settings? You know, through policing, through sentencing, through the use of imprisonment, also through welfare, through the removals of children. You know, those kind of interventions have enormous consequences, but we don't articulate them. So it's not, you know, it's not difficult, really, but I think it requires a big cultural shift.